part one, Verify SaaS. And the mission of this platform is securely connect just any identity, any account to any resource. So when we look at identity and access management in general, we have, of course, different disciplines. We have access management, we have identity governance and administration, and we have privileged access management, PAM. So what Verify SaaS does is the first two, in fact, it's doing access management and it's doing identity governance and administration. So what we do is the things that you expect from such a comprehensive solution, and we're all doing this from the cloud. So we're doing single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. We have some specialties like adaptive access, where we use sophisticated machine learning techniques, in fact, to determine the risk score of a user. We're pretty advanced in passwordless authentication, based on FIDO or on a QR code, in fact. But the platform, and the same platform, so same user interface and so on, can also do identity governance and administration. So it can do lifecycle management, create accounts, either for your SaaS applications, but also for your on-prem applications. There are quite a lot of standard reports in the product. And when talking about consumer identity access management, especially or specifically, then we have a broad, let's say, framework and set of features to do privacy and consent management, something that's quite important in the world of CIAM. And we're all doing this not only somewhere in the cloud, but we also have these techniques that allow you to do hybrid stuff. So meaning connecting your on-prem applications to the Verify SaaS cloud system. Another point I would like to make is that the platform can handle both categories of identity and access management. On the one hand, the, let's say, more classic workforce identity, where you're going to manage your employees and your consultants, people working for you. But on the other hand, it's also very equipped, let's say, to do consumer identity, which is a completely other thing within identity and access management, with other requirements and other people involved, in fact. So more on that in the second part of our webinars. So next is, so Verify SaaS is a SaaS solution, so it's running up there in the cloud. It's available, and it has the famous 4 nines, so it's almost all of the time available, yet a big advantage of a SaaS solution, of course. And as you can see on the map here, it's located a bit everywhere on the world, specifically for Europe, the guys here in Europe. So we have data centers in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and we have one in Germany, in Frankfurt. Of course, these, as you would expect from such a platform, these are compliant to, for example, SOC 2, Type 2 and Type 3, more like an operational thing, but also the banking standards, PCI, the healthcare standards, FedRAMP, that's more something for the United States. And of course, in general, we try to be fully up to date with the recent protocols in identity and access management, and especially the OpenID Connect standards. So, as I said in the beginning, so there's a lot of features that we provide. There's a big part of them is access management, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and then the kind of advanced authentication offered by IBM Trusteer, where we can do advanced stuff such as profiling a user, the way, for example, he types on a keyboard, the way he moves his mouse, a detection, a really sophisticated detection if the user is using a new device, so a new laptop, for example, or another browser. These are all things that we can capture, in fact, put together and make and come up with a risk level in the sense of, in saying it's a high risk, it's medium risk, or it's low risk. And then next to the access management features, we also have a quite comprehensive identity governance part where we can do user provisioning, where we provide adapters to your on-prem applications such as SAP NetWeaver, for example, but also Oracle, your on-prem Active Directory, LDAP, and so on. But we also do, of course, provisioning to the SaaS applications such as SalesForce, Box.com, Dropbox, name it, and it's probably in our catalog. This is more like why IBM, why our platform, and it's because it's hybrid cloud by default. So standards are pretty important for us. So our solutions are built on these standards: FIDO, OpenID Connect, SCIM, SAML, and so on. And with hybrid cloud, to provide that, we have a number of lightweight things that run on premises to make that bridge from the cloud, from our solution to your environment. And these are things like, for example, an authentication that you have to do on your on-prem Active Directory or your on-prem LDAP. Maybe you want to sync your current Active Directory or LDAP with the cloud directory. We have a bridge for that. We can also integrate Radius servers with our system. So allowing, for example, to authenticate to a VPN based on the authentication provided by the system. And similarly, we can do that for Linux PAM systems and also for Windows servers. And then we also have this gateway to make it possible to connect your legacy applications. And with legacy, I mean applications that do not have SAML or OpenID or OAuth built in. These applications can also be easily connected to the system thanks to our quite powerful IBM application gateway. And voila, these are the so-called hybrid bridge components that we offer together with the system, all included. Then talking about integration, so a lot of integrations are possible. I've already talked about the legacy apps that we can integrate. There's a possibility to integrate via webhooks. There are many identity providers possible, many types also, social IDs, of course, but also your own SAML OIDC identity providers are supported. There's the MFA I talked about. There's integration with SIEM, for example. There's reCAPTCHA. There's the adapters that we have for the user's lifecycle, and so on and so on. So next is let's show what the system looks like, and for that I have prepared a small demo in the interest of time, of course. And the demo is about a user, Mary, in fact, Mary Breton, who is new to sales and needs to ask access to SalesForce, one of the applications that her company provides for her. And let's see how that goes. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to leave the presentation and go to my Chrome browser, and I'm now Mary, and Mary is going to connect to the user interface of the system. She's presented with login screen. There are different ways she can connect. She will connect via username, password. She has an email address, a password that's already filled in here. She signs in. And this is part of the user experience. Wait, let me make that a little bit bigger. So she gets to what we call the launch pad. So this is where she can see all the applications that are available to her. So she can pick one of those, start those, and will have access to those applications. So Mary, she's new in the sales department and she's looking for SalesForce, and so she will try to find SalesForce. Notice that it isn't there, so she has to ask for access, in fact. So she will do this. So she will add an app, look for SalesForce, and request access to SalesForce. So what happens here is she has to give some business justification, and she can put in something like, hi, I'm new to sales, for example, and need Salesforce. And then she can submit it. So this is a way to ask access to a specific application. In the My Requests, she will see that there's a pending approval, and she can look at the data. It's for Salesforce, and she can also look, okay, who's the application owner? Well, the application, or who's the approver rather, that's Jacob. So now she's waiting for this approval, and next is I'm going to log out as Mary and log in as the approver, which is Jacob. So same here, I'm logging in as the approver, Jacob. And this is the dashboard of Jacob. As you can see, he has some extra things here. There's a task manager where you can see his pending tasks. There's also a way to get notified by the requests, if there is a request for approval, yes or no. And he will also receive an email. All of these things are, of course, configurable. So when I'm going to the task manager, I will see, okay, there's something pending for me. It's Mary Breton who has asked access to Salesforce. And yeah, I should now decide to approve this or deny this. So if I click to the details, I can see it's for Salesforce. I see some other data. And finally, I can see the justification here. And of course, for the sake of the demo, I will simply approve this. Give a little message here. And approve. All right, so that's how easy it is to set up something for approval. Mary has now approval, and let's see how that goes. Sign out and sign in as Mary again. All right, and of course Mary, if she looks at her requests, she will see that there are no pending requests. There will of course be approved requests, and one of the and she can see that SalesForce has been approved earlier today, and of course also in the preparation of the demo a few times before today. So going back to the App Center, she can now go to SalesForce if she wants to do so, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And maybe a little word about this Launchpad. So what is the advantage of this? The advantage is that she can see what applications are available to her for the moment. So this is kind of avoiding that people are going to look for applications and even trying to buy applications or subscribe to applications while the company simply offers them. So this has to do with the, let's say, the combat against shadow IT. This is helpful, in fact, because users can now see what they have exactly access to. And of course, in the demo, what I'm showing here, now she can go to SalesForce. That means that there is a connection between the system and SalesForce, and that connection is a single sign-on federation where SalesForce will accept identity from the Verify SaaS system so that Mary can transparently log in a single sign-on manner. So launching that app is as simple as this, and you can now see the SAML at work. Pretty technical business, of course, and you can see that she's now transparently logged in to an application. Of course, this is not the only application that Mary needs, and imagine if you don't have this single sign-on setup between your applications, then you would get situations like this new person will have a username password for each application, right? And another user experience, and possibly also another multi-factor authentication. So this is zero trust in action. In fact, you have one central point where people can authenticate. You have this one identity point of policy where everything takes place, and you have control, and it's in the same go. It's convenient for the users. So let's log out here. And as you can see, if you're logged out, you're also logged out from Verify. So another thing I can show you that, of course, is that the system will also send emails. Not too surprisingly, for example, here we can see the most recent emails. For example, that Mary has received an email that her access to wait on this. I have to refresh this, I guess. Hold on. It's taking a bit too long. I don't know what it is. This is my Mailinator account that I use for my test emails. Apparently, there's some problem with that. Okay, next let's go and see how this was all configured in, there we are, in fact, for the emails, so I'll show it anyway. That's pretty slow. I don't know what's happening today or with the network here. So let's look at how things are configured in the backend in the Verify SaaS. So this was the end user experience. Let's say, let's now step over to the administrator interface. And for that, I'm going to log in as the administrator of my test tenant. I will also have to provide authentication, because hey, we do work in security, so my own administrator is protected by multi-factor authentication by the system. So a push message was sent to my smartphone and I'm now logged in. So we integrated with SalesForce. So let's take a quick look at what's happening at the administrative user interface. You have this welcome screen, of course, with some statistics. Let's go right ahead and look to applications. So applications are, of course, a major part of the functionality of the system. You can add multiple applications. These are the one. This is the list of applications I've already added in my environment. But of course, you can add your own application and then search for any application, and most of the or almost every standard SaaS application, and here's where you can see the list, in fact, is integrated that way. If you choose one of those and you try to add them, you will get nice instructions on how to do that, on both sides, either on the application side or at the Verify SaaS side. But you can also integrate with your own applications, which is of course convenient if you have your own application that uses SAML or OpenID Connect to have a federation, to have an identity provider such as Verify SaaS. But let's take a look at how I configured in my environment the SalesForce application. And this is the SalesForce application, and so for every application you can see some general things, like over here. Of course, the other side, the host name of the other side, namely the in my case the development edition of the SalesForce. What applications that can make use of this federation, and these are not Salesforce Chatter, Salesforce Sales Cloud. These are the ones I will be presenting to my end users, but there are of course also other that I could present. And then you can see that the application owner is Jacob. So this is what we saw in the demo. You can have multiple application owners, and then automatically these will all be sending these one of the application owners has then has to approve the access to Salesforce. So let's look at the entitlement. So per application you can determine, okay, how am I going to give access to my users? You can say, okay, I give automatically access to all my users. Or you can say, okay, you can get access, but after approval. And I've chosen some other thing here in my configuration. I've chosen, okay, well, everyone must be within the sales group. And after approval from at least one of those two, and in my case I only choose the application owner, but I could also choose the user's manager. If I had chosen that, then the user would first have approval from the manager and then from the application owner. So another advantage of this of the platform, in my opinion, is that it simplifies this kind of access. So there are no complicated workflows. It's pretty simple. In this case, I've chosen application owner, and that's the way, in fact, our test user Mary Bratton got access to Salesforce. So that's application, Salesforce entitlements, single sign-on. Of course, this is where all the technical stuff is being set up for the single sign-on configuration. Many connectors also provide just-in-time provisioning, meaning that the first time when a user goes to Salesforce, Salesforce will actually create the account in Salesforce, and then the consequence of the times after the first login, then the user account will be updated with the attributes in the SAML token. And of course, to do this just-in-time provisioning, you do need attribute mapping what's in the Verify SaaS system, the attributes of the end user, to the attributes that correspond to the SalesForce account. So you can see those over here. And then finally, you have an access policy. And this is in fact something I will change now, because as we looked at the scenario, we saw that there was a username password to give. So she had to provide her username and password and then single sign on to Salesforce. Of course, this is not the most secure way. So for this kind of applications, it's better to choose multi-factor authentication. So what you can do within Verify is you can set a policy per application. And let's do just that. So now the policy is use default. And I will change that to a policy which I prepared for this and which I called business critical apps. And save that. So business critical apps is a policy that I will discuss right now. So for Salesforce, same thing here, of course. How did I configure that? Well, of course, I got the development edition back at Salesforce, and then I simply followed the instructions here on the right to do this configuration on Salesforce and on Verify. So it's a very quick way of integrating your applications with these standard SaaS applications. All right, so next is let's take a look at what I've just done. So I've set an access policy for Salesforce. And then let's take a look at this policy, which is called business critical apps. So within the platform, it's easy to create access policies. So I've created an access policy here, and let's take a look at this access policy. So when setting a policy, you have to determine the rules, of course. One of the rules that you can set is, will it use adaptive access, yes or no? So in this case, I've chosen no, but let's take a brief look at that. If you choose to use adaptive access and you're subscribed to this option within Verify, then you can determine on what to do depending on the risk level that is returned by adaptive access. So these are the default values. So if the risk is very high, for example, it's a completely new device and it's coming from a country which you don't see every day, within your environment, then the adaptive access may return something like user risk like very high, and the authentication action is something that you can choose, and by default it's block, but you have a number of possibilities here. Another default is the one for high. So if the risk is determined to be high, then by default you say MFA always. So that means that you're always going to enforce a multi-factor authentication for the user. And then in all the configurations, if you choose, okay, I want multi-factor authentication, there's the option to choose something different than just any available method to the user, but you can say I need specific methods. So if you say I need specific methods, you could choose something like, yes, for this application, I only want to use passkeys, FIDO2 passkeys, or our own IBM Verify authenticator, for example. And then so on. So for medium and for low risk, you also have specific options. Re-authentication is another thing that you can easily configure. So re-authentication is about multi-factor re-authentication. So if you say I want to do this, then you can in fact enforce a policy where you can say, okay, you don't have to, you do need to do or redo your multi-factor authentication anyway after, for example, by the default here, after 8 hours. So another policy that you can easily set, in fact, is to reinforce multi-factor authentication. There's also a possibility to integrate with external risk systems. So similar than the built-in with adaptive access, you can go to external systems to determine the risk and help with or support the policies that you have. And then finally, and this is what we saw, is that you have your own policy rules. So let's look at the rule that I've built here. So the rule here is the action is MFA. Yeah, I'm looking at the general settings here. Okay, so the action is MFA always, and here I choose specific methods as SMS OTP, so that's text OTP to the smartphone, time-based OTP, or the IBM Verify app. And then, okay, let me cancel this. So, a bit lost here. If I were to add a rule here, I'm able to do a lot of conditions. So on the conditions, for example, based on location attributes or user attributes or device attributes or the context of the single sign-on, for example, based on these conditions, I can choose what to do. For example, if I choose here device attributes, and if I say it's, for example, one of the rules could be that I want specific platforms. So if it's one of, let's say, if it's an Android or an iOS, then I can determine an action. For example, I could say block, because I know when such an access, I'm only thinking of something here, if it's coming from a mobile device, then I should block it. So this way you can easily construct your own conditional access simply using the user interface. So let's cancel this. And all right, so this is how access policies can be built, and access policies can be made up once and then be connected to multiple applications. So not only SalesForce, but then a set of applications, and they can be very specific per application too. Okay, so we've discussed this now, and what we did now is that the access to SalesForce will now imply that our test user, Mary, will have to do multi-factor authentication. So maybe it's good to look at this user and see if she's already subscribed to multi-factor authentication. So heading over to the cloud directory here. So there's a directory in the solution which is called the cloud directory, and there I will find my users and my groups, amongst other our test person Mary Breton, and I can look at her attributes for sure, and then see that she's in the groups where she's in. I can reset her password and so on. And I can also see her MFA settings. So these are the MFA, multi-factor authentication settings, that she's enrolled to. And as you can see, in this test, person has enrolled for quite a few multi-factor authentication methods. All of these methods are readily available, and users can easily subscribe to those multi-factor authentications. So it's, in this case, it's voice IP, email OTP, SMS OTP, IBM Verify, which is our own authenticator, which I will show in a minute. And then finally TOTP, so that's the Google Authenticator, like 6 digits changing every 30 seconds timer that you get there. Okay, so next let's continue with the demo then of the test user and return to Mary. So I'm logging in as Mary, and at the same time I'll make a little bit space for the multi-factor authentication demo. So at the right of the screen you see my iPhone ready to receive a push notification from the system. I'm logging in as Mary here, and again I arrive at my app launchpad. I will look for SalesForce, launch it, and what will happen now is that I cannot simply go there with a single sign-on action, but during the single sign-on, a multi-factor authentication will be asked, and that's the multi-factor authentication that has been configured by the user for the user in Verify. So she will now be prompted for a specific multi-factor authentication method. For the purpose of the demo, I will use the IBM Verify app, which is an app that is available on the App Store, which you can simply download and start using, start registering that app with the system. And what I'll do is I'll do a fingerprint. So I get this push message here. It's asking me, do you want to sign in to this tenant? And then I will type, of course, approve. He will ask me for a fingerprint touch ID, and off I go. In fact, I'm then logged in using multi-factor authentication. So what, I hear you thinking. So this of course provides a way to do the same type of multi-factor authentication for every app. For example, SalesForce, they have their own authenticator. So imagine that users have to install an authenticator for each application that they want to connect to. That's of course not very convenient, and so not very secure because of too complex. Okay, guess that's what I wanted to show in the demo. What's the time, Yves? Because we
still have 5 minutes,
which is pretty short, but that's good. So let's head back over to the presentation, which is here.
There's no questions yet, but maybe if people have questions, they can ask them.
Yeah. So I leave you with a little picture here if you want to, especially if you want to build this yourself or go and play around with Verify and, for example, also integrate SalesForce, which is a very convenient application to integrate with, I think. So the walkthrough in the administrative user interface is something that unfortunately we don't have a lot of time for. Of course, we saw on how to integrate with applications. We saw access policies. In the webinar about consumer identity and access management, I'm surely going to talk a lot about how to configure data privacy and consent, talk a little bit about security, also multi-factor authentication, and so on. So something that's hot within identity and access management in general is the so-called ITDR, so identity threat detect and response. And this is exactly what we're doing, what we already doing right now. And let me quickly, in 1 minute, talk you about this. So you have IBM's Verify, you have IBM Security Verify SaaS over here, and traffic comes in, and a SaaS application, as a SaaS application, it's protected by edge protection, like for example Akamai. But what we are running now in beta is the so-called threat detection component, and this component can actually detect if there's something wrong in the, like for example a password spraying attack, or a credential stuffing attack, where hackers try to in fact take over the account, take over an account within Verify. With the analysis that we can do, we can detect it, and we can prevent, in fact, and also prevent not only your own instances, your own tenants, but also detect that there's something wrong is in the data center, and protect the other tenants from other companies also. So threat detection is something that's hot today, something that we're running in beta right now, and we're going to launch that later this year, I can already tell. So that's good. And then there's also, after the threat detection part, there's password intelligence, and this is where we can we can with just a few clicks, in fact, configure and have the password of a user checked for example, not for example, for common passwords, like let's say password, but then instead of the O, using a 0. So this will surely be in our database to tell, okay, this password is not okay, you should not use that. And then we can guide, so we have a number of options there. We can simply audit that there's something wrong with the password, or we can warn the user about it and gently ask them to change their password, or we can even enforce them to change their password now. So so this is a hot, rather new, let's say, branch within identity management in general, and that's ITDR. More to come in the following weeks, in fact. Verify SaaS is part of a bigger family, a whole family of identity and access management. So I leave you with that. And as a sort of a call to action, so I suggest that you try our free trial. It will take only minutes to have your own trial up and running, and then you can start configuring and seeing what's in the system. So there's another slide about SaaS resources here, and with that I would like, in fact, to thank you for your attention.